Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Militia Man. It's Monday. I don't know about you guys, but it's snowing here, and it's a bit chilly. Today's In the last few days, we've had a lot of good information, a lot of good articles that have come out, and we've had articles that come out about meetings that were in Washington, and articles that come out about New York City. We have articles that come out about things happening in Baghdad. We have things that are coming out of the UAE in respect to all these different players. And some of these players that we're talking about is the Prime Minister Al Sudani, and then we have Fawad Hussein, the Foreign Minister, and we have Taif Sami, the Finance Minister. These folks, along with Alak and the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, have all been in these meetings in the last week or so. Most focused on would be the Washington D.C. meetings that happened post Istanbul. So those were the U.S. Treasury and the Central Bank of Iraq having conversations. So in the meantime, what we're seeing is that they're talking about in that era, within the last week or so, they had, I mean, if there was 5, 10, there would be 20 articles that were talking about the exchange rate change. Once they recently changed their exchange rate from 1460 to 1310, what happened? The prices went up for the exchange of the dollar in the country, and this is kind of old news to everybody by now. But the United States has put in a new electronic platform, and that platform is transparent. It's fast. It's easily tracked, and they know their customers. And so ultimately, what that's done is dried up the dollar, which created prices to go up. And now what we see is the after effect. And so what we're trying to see and watch to see if they have enhanced the value of their currency. By doing so, it may show in the future, and that's what we're changing from an exchange rate topic to a value related topic. So we have the foreign minister, when we have the finance minister, and the central bank all talking about value, and value comes from not just an exchange rate per se, but what's the basis of that value. And that value is going to come from income streams. It's going to come from the taxes and tariffs at the borders. It's going to come from natural gas, oil, of course, and not to mention the fact that Iraq has a lot of foreign reserves, which is the dollar, believe it or not, and they're going to try to keep those dollars, and they have a lot of gold. I personally believe that they have more gold than they've exposed to us, but that's another topic for another day. But in the meantime, with all the things that we're seeing happening, coming together, these ministers in different locations, or, whether it's in New York City or in Washington, D.C., Baghdad, or in the UAE, they're all talking about similar situation, is to integrate Iraq into the economy, Iraq's economy into the region, and globally. What we did see recently was an auction that changed. We said that the auctions changed and they're not the same, and that's all still the same to be true. But this platform, this electronic platform, my understanding is that they are likely able to clear other currencies, other foreign currencies, and they do it transparently. And that said, this last auction was about $305 million in total. There was about 447 million in cash. Don't hold me to it, but those things were all done, and that was done this last weekend. And what we believe happened, and what we get from news sources that are in the Middle East, one particular person here in the United States has the ability to talk to the desk that's in the Middle East, their head office, and they said that there was a big change in institutions and governments or investors moving into the Iraqi dinar. And so We have an audio that's in Patreon that the four of us, Pompey Peter, we have Day Trader, we have Petra, Militia Fan, myself. We're all in and have a view of what transpired. So what I try to do is we try to triangulate different data sets from different people, different locations that don't communicate to one another. And I think we're pretty successful in doing so. It's a very trustworthy situation because a lot of people don't give out information unless, you know what, you take care of it and you try to be as honest as possible with integrity, and we try to do that. But in this process, we do know that some people get information and they get it from reliable sources, and we get, for instance, the news sources like Samson. She's an amazing news hound. She brings us unbelievable amounts of data. I can barely keep up. But the point is that a lot of times we get information and then we see it in print. And when we see it in print, it's a couple of days old. So some of these things that we're seeing in print may be a couple of days old. But as of today, we have noticed that there are ministries that are in and still doing negotiation in Baghdad, or forgive me, in New York City on these topics. And some of these topics are 7 items that were to be activated. It is likely that these 7 items that we're just now reading have been probably sorted by now, or will be sorted in a very short period of time. And those 7 items, I don't have every one of them because they haven't told us them all, but they're economic related. So what happens today, they tell us that this situation that Iraq is in and doing these meetings in Washington, D.C., is not about the strategic framework agreement per se for the military, for the intelligence, and for security. This one is completely about economics. They even say it. It's strictly economic related, and it is the main basis, and it's for the first time ever. So in the meantime, we'll go on to enhancement of the Iraqi dinar, and yeah, to the enhancement of the Iraqi dinar. You know, there's some things that have been said that really caught my eye today. For instance, like I said, the visit was firstly entirely an economic visit of its kind to Washington. That's what these guys are saying. As for the restrictions on the dollar, the minister expressed his optimism about the declining of the severity of the crisis. What he's talking about there is that once they stopped using the dollar on the platform, selling it, it drove the price of the dollar up in dinars and created a crisis. That's what they're talking about. Yeah, that crisis after the government's decision was to revalue the Iraqi dinar. And so the ministry continued, he says, U.S. Treasury officials pointing out that the Central Bank of Iraq and the U.S. Federal Reserve are working within a joint system. Well, that joint system is going to be this new platform. And I believe that new platform is not only going to clear the Iraqi dinar, but other currencies coming in, because we're going to have international trade. We're not just going to be doing the dollar and oil basis with Iraq. They're going to have other foreign investors, whether that be coming from the UAE, from Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Europe, everywhere. China, JP Morgan's got the deal with the Buna platform. JP Morgan's got the deal with China to clear their currency. So all of these things are coming together. Another issue that I like to talk about is that the 7 projects, the 7 points of their what they're meeting about. They have 7 line items, for instance, and we believe that those line items are probably sorted already, but they may not be. But the point is that they're saying the United States is or helping activate them, and we know that the security side, the intelligence, and the military part, those have already been sorted. Back to that point where I said that it's an economic forum, meetings, economic, one of its kind that they've never had before. So the next thing is that that's going to bring value. I mean, if you're going to activate these things and you're going to get the business, you're going to get the revenue streams, you're going to get all that. You're going to have to open those borders. Not just to open the borders, but you're going to have to activate the borders with their new systems, the new electronic systems. And they've already done that with the bigger ports, in my view. But today they tell us that they're even going to the smaller little outlets, unofficial outlets, and they're closing those down. So they're tightening this all up to have international trade. One of the things that investors need in the world to come into Iraq and back to those auctions was that they needed to have freedom of capital movement. And so they must have been assured in the Washington, the Baghdad, the Istanbul, and the meetings that we saw at the IMF with the IMF and the AMF in the last 24 to 48 hours are all coming about telling us that they're going to be going international, and the borders are a big issue with that. They say that they have some cultural and commercial clauses in these 7 items, but they're all about the cooperation that the United States is going to work with Iraq, and I'm sure that the EU is going to work with them. We already know that the EU lifted them from the gray area into the white area. And let's see, what else did they have to say here? The basis of all these meetings is going to be value. It's definitely value. I want to get to the end and touch basis on the finance ministry. The finance ministry has been with in the UAE with the Arab Monetary Fund, the IMF, experts in financial institutions, many different things. And those folks are all in those meetings. And when they say integration, because you have all these different ministries going around doing their own thing, but they're all talking about what? They're talking about enhancing the value of Iraq. And that is coming together because the IMF, the AMF, IMF has the SDR basket of currencies, which is inclusive of many global currencies, the yen, the won, the British pound, the United States dollar, etc. The AMF, they have their own group of currencies, but they also have a common denominator, and that's these electronic platforms. The Buna platform, that is owned by the AMF. That is where JP Morgan will be doing clearing in digital dollar and the digital won, I would assume, the digital dinar, all those currencies are going to have a digital component. They're going to have the same capabilities to be able to track and know who their customers are. They're going to know the front end and the back end. And so that's where we are. And one of the last things that they said, one of the things that they said, the problem of the high price of the dollar was remedied by governmental and popular will to enhance the value of the Iraqi dinar. Well, 1310 isn't enhancing the value of the dinar. It was at 1460, from 1166 to 1460, and then back to 1310. That's not enhancing it. The inflation and all those things that come with that, it just doesn't match. But what does match is that they're enhancing the value based on those income streams. All of those things I said, those revenues, the taxes and tariffs at the borders, their gold reserves, their foreign reserves, all of those things are the things that enhance the value of their currency. And that's why those investors showed up and had that huge amount of money. Think about it for a minute. $250 million going after dinar at 1310. You do the math, you're going to go, wow, that is a lot of dinar. And especially if that dinar has a value that is equivalent to what's a real effective exchange rate. That's where these guys are, I think they're taking us. And we should be seeing that in a very short period of time. And the last thing that she says is that the Ministry of Finance is in the process of finalizing the work on the federal budget for the year 2023. Well, right there, we know that they're not going to expose that rate until we get it, because that's going to be put into this new 2023 budget, in my view and most everybody's view, I think. Anyway, pleasure talking to everybody. If you like what we bring here at Patreon and in YouTube, subscribe, hit that donate button, keep us going, and we appreciate all your support. Have a great day. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.